Well, hi, welcome to session 2 of how to cultivate a meaningful life. And we looked last time at the reality that we are made in the image of God, and that God is a creator and a cultivator. That God created the world with forms for the sake of flourishing, structure so that life can breathe. And that we were designed in His image, and one of the things that means is that we're meant to do the same. We are creators and cultivators. We create structure so life can flourish. That's what you and I are made to do. And we've experienced our greatest joy and we achieve our highest productivity when we fulfill that created intent. We are made by our God to be like Him. We are creators and cultivators. And so now that comes down to, what does that look like in our day-to-day schedule? How does that work itself out? How does the eternal purpose of God fit into the mundane areas of life? And in these next 3 sessions, I want to break it down on how to structure your life. It begins with you. How do you structure your time so you can flourish under God? One of the greatest gifts you can give all of us is a you fully alive. And a way to structure it is to think in terms of your title, your tasks, and then your time. And in this session, we'll look at your titles, because here's the principle. Your identity determines your activity. Who you are determines what you do. I remember when I was in 5th grade, by the grace of God, I was elected to be the fire chief of the school. That meant when the fire alarm went off, I had to run to the front of the school to the vice principal's desk, grab the stopwatch, and I would time all the students as they exited the school. I would see how long it took us to escape. And then when we all went back to class, I'd get on the overhead speaker and tell everyone how we did. It was very exciting. But I remember it was months into 5th grade year before there was ever a fire drill. And so the fire alarm went off. I was in math class. The teacher said, students, line up. We're going to file out the back. I was a student, so I lined up and started filing out the back. And it wasn't until midway through the hall that I thought, no, wait a minute. I'm not just a student, I'm a fire chief. I'm meant to be going the other way. The stopwatch is at the front of the school. And a little panic hit my heart of like, wait a minute, but everyone's going this way, until finally I realized, no, the principal gave me a new identity. And that new identity determines my activity. So I turned and ran to the front for the sake of those kids. And it's the same with you and the same with me. God has given us identities that are meant to determine our activities. Boxers box, dancers dance, students study, hypothetically, because your identity determines your activity. So in this session, I want to challenge you to write down as much as you can, who are you? And it's a wonderful journey to look through the scriptures and see what God calls us. Often we're called beloved. We are loved by God. And that makes sense, because our greatest commandment is to love God. We're also called saints, made holy because of the work of Jesus, but meant to live holy lives, that we make war against the sin that unravels creation, and we try to cultivate that which helps creation flourish. That's who we're meant to be. And all through the Bible, we have these different titles. But here's the challenge I want to give you as you think about how to cultivate a meaningful life. I want to challenge you to begin to believe you are not a victim of your schedule. You're the master of it. Because God called you that in Genesis. You'll be held accountable for that. Ephesians 5 says, make the most of every opportunity because the day is evil. We don't need you to shrug your shoulders or shrink back and say, I'm too busy, life's overwhelming. No, you're the master of your time, energy, and resources, and you are meant to cultivate them for the maximizing of the flourishing of life. Proverbs says the hand of the diligent will rule, and Jesus said it, pragmatiza, make a profit with the talents I've given you. And it starts by figuring out who you are. So for me, this was liberating when I was in my 20s. I took a piece of paper and just wrote out, what are the titles I have under God? At the time, I could write out I was a student because I was in school. And then I could write out, I'm also an employee at a certain organization. And then I wrote out I'm a steward of certain resources, of a certain amount of money, although at the time it was a very small amount, and different resources I was accountable to, bills I had to pay, and so forth. Some of yours may be parent or husband. Now as a pastor, I have a column for preacher and a column for teacher, a column for pastoral care of caring for other people. And I try about once a week to write out my titles. What are my roles? Because then I can fill out the responsibilities underneath them. But let's just start with the roles. Who are you? What titles has God given you? You're the steward of resources. You're an employer and an employee. You're a husband. You're a father. You're a mom. You're a child. Write out as many titles as you can think of. Because often when we just make to-do lists, they tend to just fill in the to-do lists we need to do for work. And we neglect some areas that are really valuable in our life. So take a moment and pray and ask God, what are the identities you gave me? that are fundamental to who I am. And then we'll look in the next sessions of how you can live into those roles with your responsibilities. And that's where life gets fun, where the eternal touches the mundane, and you say, my day-to-day moments are shot through with purpose. That's the life you want. That's the life we're aiming at, cultivating a meaningful life. We'll see you next time.